Hey, Dennis, just
Yeah.
back to watching the film. What did you sort of, what kind of your evaluation of how Derek Carr played last night?
Yeah, look, I think it was much like, I said last night. I think there were some really good things that he did, and yet I thought there was a couple of plays that all of us would like to have back. So I think that's a microcosm of, where we're kind of at as a football team. We've got to be able to be, like I said last night, more consistent. And, until we do, we're going to have a lot of the ups and downs that we've been seeing.
It's been drawing a lot of attention. The go route down the right sideline on a third down from Derek to Chris. Can you tell us a little bit about what y'all saw on the tape from rewatching that one?
Well, look, we felt like there was a matchup there. Are you talking about the deep ball that kind of went out of bounds? Is that the one you're talking about, or you're talking about?
That's the one.
Yeah. Look, I mean, that's one of those where Chris has really kind of got what's kind of referred to as a bus ticket release, which means he's got a must outside release. Take off and try to clear the defense out. Derek thought there was a good chance to get a one-on-one shot with him on the outside lanes, which, in our league, if you get a chance to, get a good player in a one-on-one matchup, that's what a lot of this league is about. Chris didn't, he didn't run that route the way that it needs to be run. So that's what happens. So we end up having a throwaway there.
I know a lot of attention has gone to, some effort things and things like that with Chris has come up a couple of times in that, but so certainly not just with him. But how are those things that you approach and try to clean up on a daily basis?
Yeah, well, look, I just was talking to Joe Woods just a minute ago, talking about some of those things from a defensive standpoint. So I think all of those things are things that, like I said last night, we get an opportunity to kind of reset just a little bit. And I think those are all things that have to be addressed, over this little kind of, call it mini bye. And those are things that need to get cleaned up, because if they don't get cleaned up, we're going to continue to get the same results.
Would you say the decision to not start Trevor Penning is 100% performance-based, or is there some other component to that decision?
No, I think a couple of things. Look, I think some of it is performance-based. Some of it is, I think, when you have a young player and they have some struggles, what you don't want is them to continue to struggle and lose that confidence. And so I think it's an opportunity for him to kind of, like I said before, get a chance to see the game from a different perspective, and then get a chance to get into practice and work to improve, and yet, maybe not have all the pressure of having to go out and perform on game day. And so that's kind of where we're at with Trevor.
Dennis, will you follow the exact same schedule that you followed on mini buys in the past, or will you guys spend more time kind of reviewing and working on fixes and being in the offices than usual?
Yeah, I think we're gonna be. I'm out of pocket for a personal reason, and so there's going to be a lot of work that's going to be done, and yet it won't be all in the office.
And how much do you think you guys will consider like significant changes to how you're doing things, who's doing them, all that kind of stuff while you have this reset period?
Yeah, I think that's all stuff that needs to be evaluated. So I wouldn't say that we've made any decisions on that at this point, and yet I wouldn't say that we've ruled anything out at this point. So I think we'll just we'll take some time here over the next couple of days and kind of look where we're at. Offense, defense, kicking game. What do we need to do better? How do we need to do better? I think we've identified some challenges. All right, but it's not about identifying the challenges. It's about finding the solutions through those challenges. So that's what we've got to work on. That's what we've got to get accomplished.
DA, on the broadcast coming out of halftime, when you were kind of doing that sideline interview, it was a comment about Ronald Curry giving kind of this halftime speech. Is that a usual thing, or how does that work? Is that
I think that was RC in the moment feeling like, it's easy for people to think, well, it's not me, and yet RC stepped up and said, you know what? Yeah, all of us. It's all of us. So step up and do your job. And so it was good.
One of the things that you had mentioned last night was in kind of the hurry up that there's a lot of calls being made at the line by Derek. Can you elaborate on kind of what that process is as best you can in terms of how those plays are called in those hurry up situations?
Yeah, so typically when you get into one of those 2-minute hurry up situations, there's a smaller menu of plays. Mm-hmm. And so there's, call it, I won't get into specific numbers, but there's, a number of plays that we can get to. And a lot of times Derek is getting to, based on what he's been seeing, the best play for that look. And at the same time, there's communication coming in for Pete on the sideline. Hey, you might want to get to this, or you might want to get to that. So he's given him some menu options. And I would say that that's extremely common, in our league for that type of, when you're in those situations and you're going up tempo like that.
I think we saw the hurry up really picked up the tempo of the offense and even the productivity of the offense.
There's no question. I felt like that was something that jump started the offense a little bit. We kind of got going there, and I think obviously that's something that maybe that's something that can benefit us as we continue to go through this season. There's a lot of time for us to continue to work to get better. I mean, we're 7 games into the season, so we're not even at the halfway point. And yet, we know that we've got to play better. So I thought coming out of that game, I thought there were some encouraging things in terms of our ability on offense and things that we can do. I think we saw what we can be offensively, and so I think we got to really evaluate what we're doing in those situations and see how much we can incorporate that in, to a weekly occurrence. And yet, as I said last night, you're not gonna be able to play every game throwing the ball 55 times or playing every game in a 2-minute offense where you're, throwing the ball every down. That's just not gonna. That doesn't lead to a lot of success in our league over a long period of time. So I think that's something that can be a part of it, and yet I don't think that's something that kind of becomes who you are going to be on a play in and play out basis.
So if you find something in a hurry up like that, there are elements of that are transferable to a standard tempo that you feel you can replicate. Is that right, or does that only apply to the hurry up situation?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's some things that can apply to that. I think also one of the things that you see when you go fast, offensively, it limits what you can do. And yet I also think it limits a little bit in terms of what the defense can do. Sometimes you don't see as many, exotic looks and things of that nature. So, but I think that's a balance, in your offense where you can incorporate some of that, and yet not be that way all the time.
Thank you.
Dennis, what is your impression of where Chris Olave is at in his development? Since that one play was obviously heavily scrutinized, but a few things have been scrutinized with him. from the outside looking in, I guess.
Yeah, look, I think there's a lot of good things that I see him doing, and I would say I keep coming back to this. I just think it's the inconsistency with which we are operating. There's obvious, shots of guys that are doing it right, and when they do, it looks really good. It's efficient. It's effective. And then there's plays where, it's not efficient and effective, and it's not being done exactly the way that we need it to be done. And so that's what has to be cleaned up.
Is it unusual to see this happening in a player's second year, or were there elements of this that had to be managed during his rookie?
I think not when you're dealing with young players. I mean, I think you do see inconsistency, and I think that's something that we have to continue to work on. I think that's something that he has to continue to work on, and a lot of our guys have to continue to work on. And it's hard to be the same guy every single day in a 17-game season. It's hard to bring your A game every day, but that's the expectation, and that's the standard that we have to have.
Time for one or two more, please.
Hey, Dennis, sorry to.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say sorry to harp on this, but when you mention inconsistency from Olave, do you specifically mean not finishing out his routes? Like, is that the recurring problem?
I mean, there's inconsistencies in what we're doing as a team.
Dennis, where do you guys identify that coaching fits into that? Obviously, I mean, you try to toe the line between encouraging, being hard on them.
Yeah, I think both aspects have to be there. I think there's some points in time where you have to be willing to encourage and pat them on the back, and there's sometimes where you have to stick them somewhere else, and that's part of what coaching is. And so if we're not getting the consistency that we need, there's a coaching aspect to that, and it starts with me. So I've got to do a better job with our football team of making sure that they understand, how we have to play if we're going to have success. Okay, guys, thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.